Hey guys, so I hope to see you guys at the Guns Down Life Up Assembly April 22nd at Harlem Hospital from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Now, I hope you guys are there and enjoy. I most likely will show up late for this one. I have a medical thing to attend to, and then I will be there as soon as I can. So most likely I won't be able to cover everything, but hopefully James has his resources and his people to do so. But I will be arriving most likely late. But I would really honestly would like for you guys to come out, sign up, and definitely enroll. And the more, the better. And we need to reach out to our communities and work together. And by showing up, it would be a start. So I hope to see you there. I most definitely will be there at the end of the assembly. And my apologies if I'm not able to be there early in the morning. Perhaps the following one. And thank you.
I lived in, Australia for a bit. I've lived in South America. I've lived around. But when I came to Lincoln to train, my eyes were open to a whole world that I didn't know existed. Growing up in New York, out on Long Island, it was suburban life, and then I come here and it's just like, this guy's getting shot, that guy's getting stabbed, this guy got beat up, this, it's just shooting and stabbing. It was like, I've never even heard of this. What's going on? And I used to leave work and, hang out with my friends and tell these stories about I saw 2 gunshot wounds today, 2 guys got stabbed, da-da-da-da. And my friends would always be like, wow, man, that's crazy. I've never heard of this. I wasn't aware. And before I left for Australia, one of my last patients was a 4-year-old who got shot in the head. And it was actually at a, not a fundraiser, but it was a basketball game. Yeah, that was my patient. And I'll never forget, I was really angry because, all these people that I've always seen in the ED get shot, nobody ever makes the papers, but somebody gets their purse stolen on, 14th Street, and it's all over the news. And that, I'll never forget that day, that kid was page 5 or page 6, he didn't even, and I was just like, this is wrong. And that really, when I came back from Australia, I had that year to think about, what we focused on, particularly not in this neighborhood, but outside of this neighborhood. And now I tell those stories to educate people where I live, as opposed to entertain people, and try to get the word out that way. And say that, our city is not as, as happy-go-lucky as we think. We live in a nice area, but 2 miles up the road, people are getting shot, and that's egregious. That's crazy in this day and age. And in the United States of America, you can walk up the street 2 miles and people are getting shot. A 4-year-old gets shot and nobody hears about it. That, to me, really, really angered me. It really made me want to, sort of educate those that aren't aware of the problem, because I don't think it's raised enough in the media. You have to go looking for it if you want to know that the problem is out there in terms of a local, issue.
Yeah, I think it's a really great point. Violence starts in the home. We see it every day here. What makes the news is maybe, the person who went out to Oklahoma and shot, somebody in a mall or a bunch of people, but here it's the everyday reality, and
Right.
it's not on
It's
the
not
news.
addressed. It's not addressed at all.
Right.
It really is shocking.
And so as a child abuse doctor, I tell people what I do because I want them to know it's a
Yeah.
problem. And I want them know there are people doing something to address it. So how do you find when you bring it up with people in an educated or educational way, how do they respond to it?
They're open. They're open-minded. Obviously, people have their own opinions and own views as to why the problem exists in certain areas, socioeconomically, educationally. But nobody's dismissive of it. I haven't found anybody dismissive of it, which I think is a good sign. People do care. It's just that it's not their daily, life. They don't hear about it daily. They don't. So it's not in their minds. It's an afterthought. And unless you bring it up constantly, they're not going to think it's a problem to them when it really is.
Thank you. Pastor Henry, your personal story and your personal dedication to this issue.
Yes, I do have a story, and this is a true, real story. And this story began February the 17th, 2012, was the worst day of my life when I received devastating news that my only son was shot and he died. And this happened right here in this community on 153rd between Cortland and Morris Avenue, housing project where I used to live for 26 years. And when I received the news, I was just like, it was like someone just took a knife and just was stabbing me in my heart. And I was able to get dressed and come downstairs to see where my son was. They said he was in the building laying on the ground. By the time I got down there, the ambulance came. And it was two young men that knocked on the door. And I'm telling you, I don't know how I got to Lincoln Hospital on my feet. It was like one was holding me with my right hand and the other one was holding my left hand. And I was just running. And I was running, I was running, and I was running. I was out of breath. By the time I got to Lincoln, like the doctor was like, have a seat. And I know when they say have a seat in this certain room, it is not good news. So I started to cry and I said, okay, let me see my son. So they took me to see my son, and right here in Lincoln Hospital. This is my first time back here since 2017, 2012, when I was here, and I was invited here today by Betsy, and I said, okay, I'm coming. I'm coming not with any type of fear, but I'm coming with strength today, because I was weak then, but now I'm strong. And I said, I'm coming, and I'm going to do what I need to do here today. And I'm not going to cry. I already had a good talk with myself before I came here. So, my son passed away here. I'm here today, y'all. I'm here by the grace of God, and I'm thankful to be here. So I took this to another level. I refused to die and my pity party and all that. I said, I'm going to do something about this. So I got involved with the PSA 7 police station, and it was a very nice detective there. He's still there. His name is Angel. And I started sitting in the counseling meeting, and he was like, well, why don't you come on board? And I'm like, no, I don't want to come on board. I just want to find out what's going on in the community. And finally, he kept pushing. And then I ended up coming on the council board. Then he said, let's go to a 15-week police academy. I was like, okay. Then I was like, okay, he's going to leave me alone. Then next thing he said, why don't you try for the clergy liaison? And then I was accepted to go through the process. You go through a fingerprint, mugshot. I said, okay. So everything went clear. So I volunteered my time with PSA 7. And I'm glad that I'm involved with that organization, because it gave me strength, believe it or not. I learned a lot about community affair officers and how they work. It's like almost like a brother and sister partner. And it's basically to get to know one another, what they do, what we like, and we have good and bad and everything. So I decided, okay, so I maxed that out. Then the Lord spoke to me about, okay, why don't you do something else? And I was like, do something else like what? So inner city gun violence prevention and corporation came into my heart. And I said, okay, I'm going to do something. So these buttons that I have on my jacket, I decided to get these buttons printed up and stuff like that. And I said, I'm going to have these and, I'm going to profile this. Then I said, I'm going to register this business here. And I got the 501c. I registered with the State Department of Education. And, so it's still moving. It's moving, this program. And I'm happy that I did this because it's a great help. It's a great responsibility. I feel as a mother, a leader, a pastor, it is my responsibility to be involved with this matter and many others. Not only my son was murdered, I had 3 other family members that was murdered to gun violence. And they died like, just like that. So I said, I must get involved. I must get involved, and that's why I'm here. And if I could just say, like, our mission statement, I'm just going to brief it. It is to honor and empower and to build values in our children, families, and our community by taking action and preventing gun violence and providing information and also support. And the vision statement is to live in a gun-free environment in our communities and have our consistencies and families and everyone brought their lives into the fullness, because mothers should not be burying their children. I thought about also street safety, basically dealing with my son, because my son was the type, he likes to always be out in the street. He wasn't the type who had a lot of money. He didn't like gold. He didn't like fancy clothes. He was simple. So, for someone to bring harm to him, it really hurted me a lot. And I don't still understand it up to this day. But I thought about strategies for street safety. I think about to speak to someone about your concerns and someone who you can trust. I'm also thinking about providing a 1-800 number for assistance for those children that have guns and those children that are thinking about doing something to others, to be able to call that hotline. Also, to research on how to teach youth how to deter from guns and knowing what to do if they is encountered with guns, how to get out of it safe and alive. I also want to discuss with someone about gun threats, who, what, and when. And I feel also people, places, and things. Also to ask the children, do you know your environment? Do you know the danger signs? I'm also thinking about, what do you do about a gun? What are your thoughts about a gun? I want to know, what are your thoughts about a gun? Also, gun program prevention to establish and to reduce gun violence. I also think about, in this time of writing this paper and writing this thesis and to get this off going, because it's still in the process, in the incubator process, because this just started November the 21st. I received my 501c, so I'm just getting started, and this is just a little introduction where I'm going. And I thought about saying to the children, let's go to the mall. Let's do a visit at the mall, and let's see how it looks when the other person is on the other side and your mother is crying and that person is crying. Let's go to Lincoln Hospital, to the trauma center, and know what's going on. Let's volunteer our time, as I did a lot of volunteer time in the hospital, intensive care. Let's think about this stuff. Look at me as a perfect example as a mother. I hurt. It is like the only reason why I haven't committed suicide is because of what I do and what I stand for. And I know I'm standing for a lifeline for someone else that's going through what I'm going through right now. So when the opportunity comes and that time, when that mother comes in one of these hospitals and she's screaming and she's falling all on the floor, I can grab her and embrace her and say, you know what? I know how you feel. This pain will be less in a couple of more months or a year. You won't feel like this time next year. You will have a whole different feeling. So it is very important that what I do to keep my sanity, to keep me going, to keep me pushing. And if I could save another life, I'm going to save another life. And whatever I got to do, I'm going to do. And I'm going to basically stay connected with my community, NYPD, all the sponsors, and we have to work together, we have to pray together, we have to stick together as a family and as a community, because we are losing too many children. These children, adults, are not being killed off quickly by the police. I'm going to tell you like that. They're being killed by one another. The same ones, they drink beer, eat the same food, wear the same sneakers. Those are the ones that are killing them. And when that takes place, they want to burn down the community. They want to burn. They want to do this. They want to fight. No. Then they don't want to be a snitch. They don't want to say what happened. And they know what happened. They know who killed your son or your daughter. And they refuse to speak about it. So, you got to look at it this way. When the police look at them, if you're going to take their life so easy, y'all not going to take our life so easy, because y'all don't care about your brothers and sisters. So y'all sure don't care about them. So we need to continue to educate our children, and we need to continue to get involved in our communities. We need to knock on doors, and we need to tell those parents to come out of those project doors and those apartments and stop dogging each other down. I'm going to say it just like that. And get involved and make a difference, because if we don't, this generation is not going to make it my age and your age. So thank you for taking the time to listening to what I had to say today. Thank you again, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much. I really admire your strength. We need more people like you. We need the community involved. What would be your advice? What do you say to a mother in the community that you need your help? Where do you get your strength from?
Well, I give it all to God. To God be the glory. He gives me the strength. He gives me, I'm telling you, it's Him and Him alone that gives me the strength. But my community also gives me the strength. And people like you, doctors, and these fine people, y'all are the ones that give me strength as I go out and do what I'm doing. And I do it for no recognition, and to even say last month was March the 27th, I received a proclamation from our council member, Vanessa Gibson, for doing what I do, inner city gun violence and all the other things that I do. And I was like, oh my gosh, I thought she was calling me to do the prayer, because I do the prayer every year. And I was like, oh, I'll do it, no problem. She was like, no, it's about you. And I was like, I do it for no recognition, but I'm like happy. I'm driven. I'm driven to do this until the Lord calls me home. I'm going full force. I'm going full force. Y'all gonna see me all over. Y'all might see Crazy Mom billboard against gun violence. I am in it to stay in it, and that's where I get my strength from y'all.
Thank you so much. We're right there with you. Okay, Mr. Mahdi.
I don't know what I can say on top of that.
You got to put some stuff in you.
Well, I've been active for a while. I've been a member of Go Water Hospital, wheelchair charities since the early 80s, where I've seen a lot of victims come in from gunshot wounds or confined to wheelchairs for the rest of the days of their life. We use basketball as a vehicle, and we would take them to Go Water Hospital to tour, and they had to write an essay, high school students. And I got, one of my friends during a basketball game halftime went in the hallway, and he got shot. And he, he was one of the best guys on our team, and our team has never been the same since that happened that summer afternoon at a play street. When my son got killed right down the block on 143rd, 3rd Avenue, in my Haven houses, there was 30 people there out there, not one witness. I got a phone call about 7:45. I got there about 11 o'clock because I was working, and his body was still laying on the side. So it was like a spectacle, like they was watching a show or some sort of a person laying on the sidewalk. One thing I realized as a black man, we don't get help. We medicate ourselves by drugs or alcohol. I don't do drugs, and I drink, but I'm not a drinker, because I see what it did to my mother and my father growing up as a kid. So I was at the DA's office, because I had to go to the grand jury because I identified my son's body. And it was the day before September 11th. He got killed September 10th. The night before, so that morning I had to go to the morgue. Everything was hectic. Everybody from Jacoby Hospital was running down to World Trade Center. So I had to look at a picture, and he had an eye patch. He had a patch on his eye, and I asked the doctor what was that. He said the bullet went from the back of his head straight out his eye. So I met the officer who was there for the first time when we was at the grand jury. So when he got there, he said his son was dead. Because, we had, if he was alive, and we did this, when we did that, but he was dead. But what really got me was, there was over 30 people out there. About 2 years ago, I went back there because I was walking the community, talking to young people about knowing your rights if, you got stopped by the police, trying to be an advocate, helping them, giving them some direction, trying to help them stay out of trouble. And I went to the spot where my son was killed dead, when I last seen him laying at, and I was froze. I went to crime victims for counseling. I didn't know what I was going for, but I knew I needed some help. And on the real side, I was waking up, I wasn't having nightmares, but my youngest son, who at that time was 15 years old, was in a Chinese restaurant when he heard the shooting, because he lived in Patterson. And he said when he heard the shooting, he said, whoever got shot is dead. When he got upstairs, there was a phone call to his mother to call me that they believe it was my son. So he ran outside, and he just stood there. And all he could think about was how he was going to get this guy back. All right? And he knew who did it. And at the end of the day, the kid left New York, went to Maryland, Virginia Beach, Florida. Eventually got locked up in Florida. Decided that he could be a murder charge, and he came back. I couldn't be in the courtroom that day, so he wound up copping out. But one of the things when you was talking about Lloyd Morgan, because I just went to court the other day with Cheyenne Morgan and Lloyd Morgan's father. A lot of people forgot about that young 4-year-old that got killed. The other day, the young man, one of the young men, asked the DA, told the DA, I'll take 15 years. And all he could do is watch Cheyenne Morgan cry because, her son would be 19, never went to after school program, never went to a day camp program. And they was talking to her as if it was her son's fault for having her son out there 11 o'clock watching a basketball game. And, in the community, because I go to a lot of funerals, I go to a lot of courts with parents, all right? Mostly the single parents, because the fathers are not there, or they don't come, all right? I just went to a court date with a mother that she's been going to court for the last 2 years. Her son laid here in a respirator for 7 days until they took him off. His uncle was Lamar Odom, the basketball player. All right, so with all the money, couldn't bring him, couldn't save him. And just the other day, the 2 young men that was accused of killing his son was let go because they had no witnesses.
Thank you guys for watching. Now, for April 22nd, we have an assembly, and I think it would be the best thing for you guys to show up and get involved, sign up. I believe, if we all get involved and, you know, bring this out to the communities, it would be great. I believe the more the better, and if we all speak out and we all communicate and we all get along, well, at least try to get along, we could stop or at least minimize violence. You know, it's a lot of informative stuff in these panels, and it's the medical industry, the doctors who actually have to kind of patch people up and repair and the worst scenario is that you know we lose our loved ones because of violence, and if not, like one of the doctors said on the panel, sometimes injury is it's so much that it becomes a very difficult thing to live with and cope with, and it doesn't only affect the injured individual, it also affects an entire family, and not only family, also friends, because there's people that knew that significant injured individual, and is no longer the person that they knew once, and it's very difficult sometimes. Not thinking about those things is, I guess I'm here to remind you, when you do have a friend or you have a family member and you rely on them, even if it's just to sit next to them or just to talk and just to have a simple conversation, we take a lot for granted because at the end of the day, if it's you or if it's an individual that has been injured, let's per se that conversation will not carry out the same in the long run after being injured. Um, Along with injury comes irritation and coping and recovery. And these are things that if you come out here, you can hear, medical professionals give you certain advice to prevent these injuries from happening. So it would be nice to see you guys on April 22nd, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Harlem Hospital. Also, I most likely won't be able to show up because of the fact that I have a medical thing to cover, but I will try my best to show up nearly around towards the end of the assembly. But hopefully, most likely, James, he has his right resources and covers this one. But I think you guys need to come out as a community, sign up, and get more involved. The more, the better. And I think we all need to get together and do something about this. Thank you, and see you on April 22nd. Have a great day.